Greetings friends, Jared here with another review from Fanboys Forever. Today we're actually going to be having a look at one of the newest Transformers products to hit the market, and that is the Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Optimus Prime. Now, here's the funny thing about this Prime. It may be hard to tell this because there isn't anything for scale, but let's take the Leader Class Prime from Earthrise and put it right beside of it. And as you can immediately tell, this is a tiny little version of that Optimus Prime. We're going to see exactly where the sculpting takes cues from and kind of discuss it as we go. Let's go ahead and have a look at the packaging. So this isn't an Amazon exclusive, but you can see that if you do order it from Amazon, you get exclusive packaging condition like this, where it's totally destroyed and bent all to pieces. Came in a little bubble mailer. You'll get the gun out of the spot in the tray. So yeah, everybody kind of knows what to expect. Thankfully, I am not a mint inbox collector, so that doesn't really matter to me. I really do like the artwork, though, back there. It kind of reminds me more of that G2 look of Optimus Prime, and I really like the kind of dark details all around him, so I think that's really cool. You can also sort of see the arc back there on the top of the volcano, so even cooler. Of course, we do believe that we are getting that, so I actually think this Optimus Prime, one of the main reasons why they released him, was so that he could be scaled with that arc as a playset. But we'll see if that comes to fruition. I believe it will. All right, on the back, we do have some cool product shots back here of Prime and some kind of, I don't know, almost like cave markings in a way to kind of let you know it's the ancient past. So let's go ahead and open this guy up. All right, and we've got Optimus out of the packaging. You do get a little instruction manual. It is not just black and white, but yes, green. How exciting, right? We'll go ahead and start with truck mode, just because it's a little more fun to build up to the robot. So first, let's just look at the truck. I like what they did. I feel like overall, the shape is, I think, right. I think the sculpt is right. I think the front of the truck looks maybe slightly tall. Maybe it's a little long, perhaps. I think it's because this facade in the front just kind of goes down a little far. Maybe, you see, if we get rid of some of that, it looks a little more natural. So that's one little, I think, error with it. On the side, it looks okay, except for this random bit here that is silver. And so I really think that they would have been much better served by making sure that that was red. As it stands, it kind of really sticks out on the side. So that's slightly unfortunate. At least this is painted red, though, and you'll see later that that's a part of the hand, so at least they did take care of that. If you look in the original packaging artwork, originally that was not the case. You see how the tab is blue right there. So at least they did go to some trouble, at least, to try to take care of that and make sure it was all right. One thing that doesn't really quite sell itself, I think, in the front is this hinge here that's supposed to look like part of the front grille. Because this is painted and this is just gray plastic, it ends up looking kind of bizarre, and I feel like that if this had been painted silver right through here, it would have blended better with the front grille of the truck. Headlights aren't painted. That's unfortunate, but of course it's something that we all expect at this point. Detail is fine on the side, but there isn't really a whole lot of discernible door and window detail. And of course I know that this part that's gray kind of simulates the window, but it just ends up looking like tech detail. From a distance, you might be able to cheat it being a window. But then if this is supposed to be the door, it's a little small. So there's some weird proportional things happening here. The top looks all right, but because these two smokestacks don't really have anything to plug into necessarily, they look a little too freestanding. You can kind of get those a little more flush. I probably should have. And it looks a little bit better like that. But at least the smokestacks are there, even though there's those cuts right there. The back is just Optimus's legs. You can see that the feet don't go down or anything. That's probably the biggest concession made in the transformation, is that the feet are just sticking straight up. So it's kind of funny. At the bottom, we can see there's nothing really going on there. You can see that things roll just fine. All the wheels pretty much pick up okay traction. So that's good. Sometimes that's not always something that happens. You can see that we have a flap up here that's covering Optimus's head. The only other thing I would say is that we do have a QC problem right here where there's a little dent on the front right there. So that's a little unfortunate, but when you buy blind, online, you get your pre-order in, who knows what's going to be on there. So these do appear to be some kind of like factory applied decals or something. I'm not really sure, but you can kind of see in the light there that they're not exactly just paint. They're more like there's something else going on there, so I'm not really sure what it is. All right, let me go ahead and show you how you transform this guy. First thing that I do is I just pull the legs down, and you can see that there was just tabs holding him in. If you wanted to, there we go. There's Optimus Prime, so you can just separate the legs. Boom. No, but there's your legs right there. They just tab together in the middle. And then from here, you can see that this front part is largely just a facade. So if we just pull that part down, you can see that a lot of that disappears. We then unfold the arms from the back, just like so. You can go ahead and unfold the hands if you wish. That's usually something that these mini versions of Optimus Prime skimp on, is they don't have hands that actually fold in, but this time they did, so I appreciate that. Then you can see that the abdomen is correct on this side. This was the facade abdomen. So we're going to spin the upper chest around here. Now you have the torso looking much more recognizable. Then from here on the back, you can actually just take this and fold it back a little bit so that it just kind of hangs out back here as part of the backpack. We can see that there is a slight indentation here that's meant to plug into this. And it requires, it seems, undue pressure to get it in there very securely, but it is possible. From there, we can just make sure the shoulders are lined up. And I just kind of rotate the bottom arms around right there. There we go. And then at the head here, we just take this and we roll that around with your thumbnail and just have it come up into place. Now this brings me to my one strange complaint about the transformation. When you first try to push this head down, this part wants to come off of this, so let me show you. So you're pushing and you keep pushing and keep pushing, and this gray part's liable to just come right off of the red peg right there. And if that happens, the head kind of just gets lodged in there in a funny way. So you have to put a lot of strange pressure on it to get it to go down the right way. And this is the biggest problem for me with the transformation, is you almost have to make sure that it's on there like that to where it can go down flush, because if it gets off track a little, it won't go down all the way. So just keep that in mind, that if that happens to you, don't be like me, where I was trying to figure out what was going on forever and ever. And finally, it dawned on me what had happened. So it is kind of frustrating. And, you know, with these small scale transformers, it's very hard to have a flip out head that works correctly. Earlier I should have mentioned it, but he does come with Optimus's classic blaster rifle. There were several spots you could put it on the truck, but you know how that works by now. You can actually put it in his hand up here if you wish. It's funny, there appears to be kind of a limit to how far I can push mine in. It only goes down that far. It does not go the rest of the way, so that's kind of odd, I suppose. So first off, before we talk about any of the details, it's probably a good idea to give everybody a very solid idea of what the scale is here. So we'll take out our just cheap little ruler. We'll go from the base, and he looks like he stands at just about 3 3/4 inches. So it is funny, but you sort of get a 3 3/4 scale Optimus Prime here. So that means if Optimus is 3 3/4 scale, let's just see real quick. Yeah, pretty much. You know, with a 4-inch figure, it almost works, but he's probably about a 1/4 inch shy away from being able to work with your standard 3 3/4 figure scale. But most figures that are 3 3/4 scale actually are 4 inches, so it is funny, but yeah. All right, let's look at the detailing on the sculpt. I think that this does a great job, and probably the best job that we've ever seen of one of these miniature scaled Optimus Primes, of conveying all of the great intricate sculpt work that we would come to expect an Optimus Prime to have. I think that the proportions are the best part. I think that they're very, very bulky without looking overly squat, and I think that that's usually a big concern when you're dealing with these miniature scaled Optimuses. Really, even though there is, you know, some funny transformation kibble going on in the back with these things, it almost looks like Prime has some kind of ceremonial flaps or something. It's not too bad. Back here, it looks fairly clean. And to the side, you have these things, probably the worst. It would have been great if they just would have added one hinge. They could have went up like that, maybe. That would have cleaned things up very nicely. But from the front, you can see that it's kind of hard to see those flaps. So they did do a good job kind of having those hug the silhouette a little bit. I think the blaster rifle looks really good, and it's definitely that classic kind of Optimus blaster rifle from the cartoons and comics that we've all come to expect. I think all the little techie bits and details are very nicely sculpted as well. You can see that he has the crest right there and the things on the side, of course. He has little windshield wipers that are sculpted on. The head is really, really nice, I think. And they even get the eyes with 2 little deco hits in there. They do have the silver on the crest on the head. I like how it has the little ears, the antenna on the side. And I just think it looks good all the way around. We do have some hollowness back here, and that's probably unfortunate. But it's really the only instance of something just looking really hollowed out and bad. I think everything else works very nicely. It is funny that there is this trimmer kind of torso they have here, but yet you have this kibble in the back. So you lose the illusion of it being fairly trim because you have all this red bulking out in the back. It would almost be better if this were blue or black to kind of highlight the trimness of the waist right there. But yeah, overall, I think he works really well. Let's look at articulation. With Optimus, you do get kind of articulation up there because of transformation. The head can go all the way around, but that's it. You do have ball joints at the shoulders. You can bring them out really far like this. You do get another ball joint down there. So you can get his elbow up to about like that, which is perfect for the gun. You don't get anything at the wrists because they're kind of pegged into place. Down here at the waist, you don't get anything. You do get some really good leg articulation. You get a nice kick like that. And then he can do the splits to the nth degree. So definitely huge on that. You do get a cut right there, and it's just on a ball joint, so you can swivel it all the way around. You can get his leg to bend pretty well, and these don't get in the way too much like you might think. The one thing that you kind of have to deal with is this comes unpegged quite a bit back here, so it's always a struggle to push this back into place and make sure everything is kind of connected, and that's sort of hard to do sometimes to make sure that that's in place, but if it is, you're good to go. There's nothing at the ankles, but really all things considered, he works very well. He's entirely functional, and it's great because you essentially get a miniature version of that leader class Optimus. So speaking of that leader class Optimus, I have him with some of his accessory kit items, and keep in mind I did paint the yellow crest in the middle on this, so unfortunately that's something Hasbro refuses to do with the standard release of this guy, and apparently even with the Kingdom re-release that they'll be doing. So I'll just show you. Here he is up on a little stand so you can get a good idea of the scale difference. I think that it would do wonders for this guy if you did put a couple little dabs of yellow right there on those bottom crests. I think that would make a really big difference, and it would go kind of a long way in selling him as the miniature version of that larger Prime. But as it stands, I do think that it is impressive what they were able to do and get crammed in here for a $10 Transformer. I think side by side, they look really cool, and it is neat to see something like that in the Transformers line. I love seeing miniature versions of some of the main characters, particularly because I love the Micro Masters and, you know, the Headmasters and things, or Titan Masters, as I guess they would call them. We can go to something like, say, Ironworks that functions as a base. And I've always been curious about how this would actually look. And Optimus is pretty large for this, but it still works decently. And it all depends on your headcanon of how big Optimus would be next to one of these cranes. He might be maybe slightly large here for this, but I actually do think it works. And even though there's no way I can fit it in my review station, he does look really good beside of like Fortress Maximus and beside of Omega Supreme. So I think that for those, that would be a really good idea to have this smaller scaled Optimus around. And like I said, I do feel fairly strongly that maybe one of the main purposes of releasing an Optimus at this scale is to go with that possible ARC playset that we have coming down the pipeline. I mean, let's not kid ourselves, it's coming. And there we have it, my friends. I think this little guy does the job very admirably, and I think he's a fun little addition to your Transformers collection. I think it will be fun to kind of pair him with some of the Transformers Beast Wars figures that we're getting, and particularly because it would be the inverse of what we've seen from the old Beast Wars cartoon, where the G1 Transformers were huge and the Beast Wars Transformers were very small. So I'm not really sure what the rationale is there, but like I said, I feel like this is less about presenting something that will be in scale with their intentions, and probably much more about presenting something that will work better with the ARC. Anyway though, guys, I hope you've enjoyed our little Transformers review today. Of course, let me know down in the comments what you think about this core class Optimus Prime, and if you think he's worth the 10 smackaroos that Hasbro is asking for him. I do think that he's fairly worth it. I think that he has a pretty nice little set of decos, and I think that the pieces are intricate enough to where it's a pretty good value for money. And guys, don't forget, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, and of course leave a comment down below. You can comment, just let us know how you're doing. Let us know if you've had a good holiday so far, what your family traditions are looking like this year, if there's been any changes, or if you're doing things kind of in a modified way this year. I know this year has been a little tough for people, so I'd just love to hear what you guys are up to down below. I also like to hear if you're asking Santa for this guy this year, and hear your individual thoughts on him as well. So can't wait to hear what you say. And of course, guys, be safe out there. God bless you and your family, and we'll see you on Fanboys Forever. Take care.